yeah. Oops. First of all, I would like to thank the Economic and Social Committee and also our organization, ESE, for inviting UEAPME here today. And I would also like to express our deepest sympathy and also the sympathy of all our organizations all over Europe towards our Greek organizations and their entrepreneurs who are going through the worst economic crisis since World War II. And we can only hope that the conference of yesterday and today can give some answers and solutions to overcome this crisis. Because entrepreneurship and economic growth are two sides of the same coin. Entrepreneurship is the driver of economic growth, and economic growth is only possible through entrepreneurship and through entrepreneurs. When the Commission and Milena already made reference to it, published in January 2013 the Entrepreneurship Action Plan, we welcomed it as it has the potential to put entrepreneurship back on the top of the political agenda. I'm highlighting the words "has the potential" because, in fact, in this document is not really something new. Those who are a little bit longer dealing with entrepreneurship, especially at European level, know that the same documents has already been produced in the middle of the 90s. But faced with the crisis, policymakers are hopefully finally realizing the importance of a thriving private sector and of removing unnecessary burdens for entrepreneurs. And Europe and also Greece will only or will not recover without more and better entrepreneurs. The European plan covers the many key priorities in this respect. It's a loud call to action towards member states, regions, and local authorities, which must do more on many issues, starting with more modern labor markets. And other chapters in this document are also spot on. For instance, on business transfer, yesterday we have already discussed this, and also on the importance of entrepreneurial learning, not only for prospective entrepreneurs, but for all young people. Continuous training is another key aspect, as it is a precondition for all successful entrepreneurial activities. This call for a cultural change towards entrepreneurship was and is also timely and appropriate. UEAPME has since many years stressed the necessity of this cultural change. Indeed, too often entrepreneurs are still perceived as greedy free riders who are responsible for all the world's problems. This must change. The efforts of entrepreneurs must be recognized and rewarded, and this is true both for policymakers at all levels and for society at large. Unfortunately, also in this document of the Commission, the importance of intermediary business organizations, such as here in Greece, ESEE, has been overlooked. Many SMEs would not exist without the irreplaceable counseling and advice they receive from business associations, which also play a key role as an interface between decision makers. No strategy, no policy will really succeed unless it recognizes and supports not only the role of entrepreneurs, but also the importance of their business organizations. That is why the success in the implementation of any action or any policy depends to a very large extent on the full involvement and cooperation with business organizations, and UEAPME and its members, and especially ASCE, ready to do their part in this respect. UEAPME also strongly supports the opportunities and incentives either to establish businesses or boost self-employment. However, and the President made already reference to it. However, it should be clear that not everyone has the capacity to become a successful entrepreneur. It requires much more than financial support. Adequate experience and management competence are strong requisites for increasing chances to survive on the market. Professional organizations should play a more prominent role by training, advising, mentoring, coaching new entrepreneurs and self-employed, not only at a very early stage, but during the first 5 years of activity. Public authorities, and especially the European Commission, give almost exclusive focus on startups and growth enterprises. In UEAPME's view, attention has to be given to traditional SMEs as well, as 70% of SMEs would like to stay in their current situation. It's obvious that it is important to take growth enterprises into account, but this should not be done to the detriment of traditional SMEs and family businesses. UEAPME reiterates, therefore, the importance of measures that allow and facilitate the continuity of the enterprises. With the knowledge that the self-employed do contribute tremendously to job creation and growth, it is important to recognize that the creation of employment is not necessarily the main aim of the owner-managers. I'm conscious that in a country as Greece, with 70% of youth unemployment, this may be seen as quite shocking. But it has to be stressed. In fact, the objectives and aims of the owner-managers are multiple. The aims of the owner-managers are closely related to the personal and business goals. Employment creation may occur, but as a byproduct of the owner-manager pursuing those goals. Most of the owner-managers perceive some ideal size for their enterprise. This often means that they wish to grow, but that this growth is limited by concerns about maintaining control of day-to-day operations and stepping costs for expansion of the enterprise. For example, owner-managers may wish to avoid delegating responsibilities to others, which might be the result of growth. In the opinion of UEAPME and its member organizations, it's dangerous to consider the creation of an enterprise as a weapon in the fight against unemployment for the person concerned. Although recently created small enterprises contribute to job creation, it would be very naive to presume that one can start up without the necessary skills to manage an enterprise. Incentives for the unemployed to become an entrepreneur should always be accompanied by preparation, in-depth training and advice. In order to promote entrepreneurship, society in general has to be made aware of the issue. It is necessary to restore the image of the entrepreneur and to raise understanding of the advantages of entrepreneurship. Currently, there is too much emphasis on the disadvantages and the prejudices that are linked with it. To realize these objectives, the public authorities and policymakers at European, national, regional, and local level have an important role to play, as they have to assume the elaboration of legislation and conditions that enable enterprises to evolve in a framework based on a sound and fair competition. The public image of entrepreneurship could be improved by governments by making the general public aware of the benefits of entrepreneurship. Also, the media play an essential role in the elaboration and the communication of a new, especially dynamic image of an entrepreneur and its important role in social economic framework. It is necessary to present the entrepreneur in a positive way, however, without hiding the reality, which is sometimes difficult. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are still confronted with a very difficult overall economic situation characterized by very limited economic growth, high unemployment rates, especially for young people, and serious budgetary restrictions due to the high debt levels of many public, but also private households. Even if the current policy approach has shown some improvements, this does not suffice to bring us back onto a sustainable growth path, able to create enough jobs to reduce the unacceptable high level of unemployment. More than 95% of the European enterprises act on local markets, whether they are local market or export-based, on local skills and resources. Small and micro enterprises, and particularly micro and craft enterprises, are the most important creators of jobs at the level of territories, sometimes even the only ones, in the rural spaces, the sensitive urban districts, or in areas with natural particularities or other handicaps, as there are so many in this region. Besides, they participate strongly in the local development and contribute to the improvement of the quality of life, in the attractiveness of territories, and to the preservation of the social link. Nevertheless, the European and national policies often granted in the past the priority to the big companies, to the companies with fast growth or with exporting vocation. That is a small minority. To tackle all this, we do not need that we need new policy tools, but we have to create synergies between the existing initiatives. With the existing tools and approaches, we have indeed all the instruments to achieve, if there is the political will, our objectives. One of the conditions of success of an efficient policy in smaller communities is its adaptation to the realities, the needs and the expectations of the economic and social actors, in particular small firms. And several criteria must be taken into account. First of all, the creation of the principle of multi-level and multi-actor governance, which guarantees an effective partnership between the public authorities, the economic and social partners, in particular the representative organizations of SMEs, micro and craft enterprises, at every level and in every stage of the decision-making process and in every stage of the implementation. The participation of the economic and social partners in the elaboration of the policies, the choice of the priorities and the implementation of the programs is indeed the best means to guarantee this efficiency. Second condition, make of the European Small Business Act, the SBA, the basis of the regions and local policy and the future regulations, with in particular the application of the major principle, think small first, only once, as well as the proportionality principle. In the same way, the SBA should become the reference for the definition and the implementation of the territorial operational programs. As I said, we have to do what has been promised, to do what has already been agreed on. Because already in 2000, the head of states agreed by adopting the European Charter of Small Enterprises, the predecessor of the Small Business Act, to, and I quote, to create the best possible environment for small enterprises. And after more than 20 years of proposals, directives, and review directives, our enterprises are, for example, still not paid in time by the public authorities in most of the member states. Hence, everybody agrees that there is too slow progress on the think small first principle. So a review of the SBA should give a new impetus to it. And as to enforce this, we need something tangible. Therefore, UEAPME asked the Council to launch at least an interinstitutional agreement to fully apply the main principles of the SBA, in particular the think small first principle, making it fully applicable and legally binding all over Europe. This will show to the member states and the European institution how to anchor the think small first principle in their policies in full respect of subsidiarity and proportionality. And this includes also a compulsory test. And I know that also in the past, the European Economic Social Committee has also already supported our request to have an interinstitutional agreement. I see that I'm running out of time, and I still have to mention the third condition. As a third condition, it's necessary to adopt a much more dynamic policy of accompaniment of small and medium-sized enterprises by an active support for actions of accompaniment and advice given by their territorial intermediary organization and their direct and simplified access to structural financing. Indeed, the priorities of EU 2020 will have important impact on small firms which cannot act alone to implement them and will absolutely need their intermediary organization. There is a need for an active policy of support for these intermediary organizations and to recognize them as natural interlocutors. And therefore, I would like to give one small or an important data. According to some sources, only 2 to 3% of small enterprises are beneficiaries of the European Cohesion Fund. And they benefit in reality of only 1 to 2% of the available funds. So it's clear that there is an urgent need to do something about it with the help of our business organization. Thank you for your attention.